Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Digital Signage Today podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Damask, the editor of Digital Signage Today. Today, I'll be chatting with Rob Tobias, CEO and president of HDMI Licensing Administrator Incorporated. Rob is an executive who has spent his career at the forefront of next-gen technology, helping to shape the consumer electronics we all use on a global scale. We'll be talking about the HDMI technology and specifically the HDMI 2.1 specification, which provides several benefits for AV applications, including increased bandwidth and the capacity to support 4K resolution at higher refresh rates, 8K displays, and even 10K. HDMI 2.1 can service several markets, including digital signage, video walls, large screens such as those used in esports, and industrial. In addition, the technology works with an HDMI ecosystem already in place. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I want to thank you for inviting me to talk to the Digital Signage Today audience. I'm really excited to be explaining how the HDMI 2.1 specification is expanding the opportunities for digital signage across all those markets that you had mentioned earlier.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, let's jump into it then. Well, I guess the first question I have for you, Rob, HDMI technology has been around for almost 20 years now. What was the idea or concept behind creating the HDMI 2.1 specification that was released in 2017?
Yeah, so HDMI has been around a long time, as you mentioned, 20 years, and has continued to evolve. And performance has been the number one key driver for HDMI specification. And HDMI 2.1 is a giant leap from HDMI 2.0. We've gone from 18 gigabits per second to 48 gigabits per second. And what does this enable? This enables higher performance for higher resolutions. We're jumping into the 8K and even 10K era, higher frame rates. So you'll see 120 to 240 frames per second at some of these resolutions. Deeper colors, wider color gamuts. So you have much more lifelike colors displayed, as well as dynamic HDR or high dynamic range, which gives you much more contrast, brighter brights. We're getting higher nits on these displays, darker blacks. And so the pictures quality in images are going to just jump dramatically from the 1080p and even the 4K era.
You mentioned a few key digital signage areas where the HDMI 2.1 would best serve, such as airports, campuses, event facilities, and retail. Why do you feel it's perfect for these markets?
And well, according to markets and research, the worldwide digital signage market is growing dramatically, exceeding over $22 billion last year. So this continues to grow. North America leads the way, and the need for larger displays, higher resolutions, more realistic picture quality is driving the growth into all of these areas. So it's very exciting to see not only the displays are getting better, but also the source devices like the mini PCs, computers that are driving these images, these media boxes, depending on what sort of deployment you have. And so, we're seeing the airport signs getting higher resolution, bigger screens, more information. We're seeing the esports is growing dramatically, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Retail environments and industrial, hospital, manufacturing.
As you just mentioned, esports continues to gain in popularity. What's fueling the esports craze, and what type of technology are gamers looking for?
And so esports is really gained with the continuation of the game consoles and the PCs. So it has now become a professional sport worldwide. And to accommodate that, there are the building out of esports arenas, Campuses and universities are now offering esports as a curriculum. They too are also building esports arenas to host leagues, to have teams sponsored by the university. And to do that, you need to install these large screens, but they also have to be very high performance screens because latency is extremely critical. Resolution, frame rates, these are all things that gamers demand in order to compete. And the venues and the universities that can offer the best experiences will attract these esports teams. And so not only are resolutions, the 4K resolution, important for gaming, eventually going to 8K, but also the frame rates, getting to 120 frames per second, going to 240 frames per second. But other improvements such as auto low latency mode, so you can ensure the displays in this lowest latency mode, and what's called variable rate refresh, VRR, which enables the display and the game system to speed up or slow down the frame rate to avoid the frame tearing and other distractive elements.
Yeah, it's definitely an industry that has boomed in the last few years. And, even Sports Illustrated, I think just a month or two ago, had it on their cover and in a feature story on esports and kind of the explosion. So yeah, something that's really, I don't think will be going away anytime soon.
But we just concluded the Olympics, so maybe 2024 that it could be a new Olympic sport. That'd be fantastic.
Wow. Well, transitioning, I guess, to video walls. We're seeing video walls in more and more places. Why is the HDMI 2.1 an upgrade for video wall capabilities?
And so video walls have been moving from 1080p to 4K. And a lot of the infrastructure to support the 4K was built around multiple 1080p signals to drive the 4K display. So that required 4 HDMI cables, 4 source boxes. Over time, the infrastructure is upgraded so you can get a single 4K source and cable. But as we move to 8K, that's going to require 4 4K or 16 1080p signals. So HDMI 2.1 will enable a single cable, a single source device to drive that 8K wall. And so that makes it much more cost efficient and easier to install with the HDMI 2.1. In addition, we have what's called ultra high speed cables that are required to be certified at HDMI Forum ATCs. And so we ask your audience, when you're upgrading to these higher performance, look for these certified cables. They will have a certification sticker on them. In addition to regular passive cables, there's also active cables and active optical cables. And that's especially important for these video walls and other installations that require longer cable runs. So keep an eye out for those. Those are available today as well.
Now, the HDMI 2.1 specification features look to have some benefits in the industrial market as well. Now, if I run a hospital, for example, why should I take the leap and invest in HDMI 2.1?
So reading images, viewing images, and having the precision to see everything that's in there from some system, an MRI, CAT scan, you want to be able to see the most level of detail, including contrast, color, high dynamic range, so you can help read the image and come to the proper diagnosis. And so HDMI 2.1 enables these industrial situations, hospitals, medical facilities, other areas that deal with high resolution images to upgrade into the 8K and 10K. And so HDMI 2.1 is the driver behind that. And you'll be able to have much more information using this 48 gigabits brought from the source to the display. And these displays, as the consumer market is driving the volume of these 8K displays, that brings economic benefits into these other segments as well. So we will see the emergence of more and more 8K displays and even 10K displays that will be used in these situations.
As we kind of wrap up, Rob, anything else that you'd like to mention about the HDMI 2.1?
So we want to, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, the specification came out in 2017, and now we have really hit our stride in terms of the infrastructure, the products, cables, all of the things needed for the digital signage industry. So now is the time to really investigate, work with your suppliers, ensure that you're putting in infrastructure that supports these higher resolutions, higher performance devices, from sources to cabling infrastructure, switching infrastructure, to display infrastructure as well. And so they are available, and the time is right to bring that to your clients and bring this higher resolution into the digital signage era.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, Rob. I appreciate it. Appreciate your insight. And I want to thank everyone out there for listening to the Digital Signage Today podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.